One, and we are recording with Miss Karen Kingston. And for all future listeners, today is Wednesday, April 27th, 2022 at 4:07 p.m. Eastern time. It seems like we're kind of breaking out of the mass psychopathy of COVID. Do you think that's my actually for all the new listeners, please introduce yourself so they know exactly who you
Hey,
are.
I'm Karen Kingston. Yeah, so they call me the Pfizer whistleblower. That's completely inaccurate because a whistleblower is someone that I was employed I was employed with Pfizer like 30 years ago, but they were either employed or under contract where they violated NDA because they witnessed something that they thought was criminal in nature and reported it. So it's actually a legal term. So I'm actually just a biotech analyst. I have worked in Pfizer, worked with other companies like Allergan, Medtronic, Thermo Fisher, and I joke. I always say I'm paid to read so my clients don't have to. And in Southern California, I also help companies help them set up their mid-legal review processes. And at larger companies, I've been brought in when a company's marketing and sales teams start to go off of basically the regulations as far as what you can and cannot say. And so I'm brought in to prevent a major fine or lawsuit. And we're talking about, when we say major in this industry, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. I think the biggest one, I was not involved in it, but I think the biggest one that was ever brought against was when Pfizer acquired Part D. I think it was a $4 billion one on Neurontin. So yeah, you can get in a lot of trouble for saying things that aren't validated and don't follow the laws, unless there is a synthetic man-made virus bioweapon unleashed on the world that's not that deadly, and we kindly declare that it's a threat to public health and national security. Then all the laws go out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you can
yeah.
just bum rush fascism right through the back door. Nobody ask any questions. If you say anything, you're not patriotic, you're Nazi, shut up. Yeah.
Hey,
Uh,
that's what I want to talk about. It's
okay.
like, no, because nobody. This is so. Whether it's whether the stuff that's going on with Elon Musk now on Twitter, but that's beside the point. But people talk about how the left was able to take control of this country, and our not just our thoughts, if you will, and our political beliefs, but like our values, right? They're like, because they always are all on the same page all the time and say the exact same thing, and they never attack one another publicly. And I do agree with that. I mean, it's in scripture, it's in the Bible, like not to attack another person uh, publicly. You talk to them, and then anyway. But but I think what's happened is, you know, some of what's happening now on the, if you want to call it the patriot movement, the truth tellers, is there's so many people coming forward. And other, you were just talking about Dr. Malone. Other than Dr. Malone, none of us are experts in, mRNA technology.
Yeah.
Just yeah, I mean, no, you just not. I mean, so many brilliant doctors are out there, but everyone is drinking from a fire hose. So as we're all drinking from a fire hose, going through this data, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be at least a decade before we learn everything that was unleashed on the global population in so many different formulations. People make mistakes. And like what happened a couple weeks ago with the Stu Peters, Brian Artist thing, the Watch the Water thing, caused all this controversy and riff. And there were things that were brought forward I thought that was worthy of bringing to the public consciousness, like as you're saying, waking up this psychosis that's going on. And that is that snake venom peptides and venom from spiders and sea snails, right, are synthetically recreated and used in pharmaceuticals, but they're also used as bioweapons.
Yeah.
So that was brought into the consciousness. But if someone says, look, I don't agree with this, because they weren't, some of the statements weren't presented as hypotheses, they were presented as declarative conclusions, right? As far as what was causing COVID, where it can be found, and, you're in my industry, you're supposed to communicate at a fifth grade level, and everyone's like, Karen, you're really bad at doing that. I know, just give me a break right now. But at the end of the day, if the key takeaway was that people thought that there was snake venom in the water, right? Then that's worthy of critique. And that doesn't mean that the people that deliver that information, like, you're not attacking their character, but we should be allowed to have debates on this side.
Yeah.
We should be allowed to say, because when I used to run med legal review processes, I would come in with, this is years ago, your binder with all of the peer review papers with, the FDA warning letters, whether it was for that company or other companies, and it'd all be tabbed out, and we would debate what messaging you could and could not say. And and when I say we, it was myself, and then it was the corporate attorneys, the corporate medical department, which was both MDs and PhDs, the marketing department. Rarely did they let sales in there because the sales guys were always trying to push the envelope way too far to the point where we're like, that's criminal.
Yeah, they'll walk right up to the ledge of legality and then just hop over it and hope for the best.
Over it.
They probably won't catch us. Fuck it.
So that I was always called in when like the sales teams would go rogue, and then they would somehow like infiltrate and get a marketing guy to get on board with what they wanted the material to say, and then people were like, call Karen before this thing escalates any further.
Yeah.
So my point is, though, we should be able to have debates and disagreements without saying that person's a horrible person.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of that's kind of happening, right? Do you see that at all? Or
I do, and I think it's kind of in the wording of what you just said. We should be allowed. I wouldn't even. Oh. I wouldn't even say would be allowed. I would say just do it.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but like, yeah. So no, you should be able to critique.
Look how brainwashed I am, being like, may I please disagree with you?
Just be a free speech. Yeah, exactly. But free speech absolutist. Just you attack people for whatever it is that they're doing. It doesn't, well, dude, we're fighting the liberals. No. Because the second you start to compromise on what is right and what is wrong to defeat X, to own the libs, well, now you are simply walking down the same path that will ultimately, years or decades from now, make you as radical as the left you're trying to defeat. So my logic is like, always critique, abandon the idea of party. Like, I'm like, someone asks, am I Democrat or Republican? I'm like, I'm Tommy. It's just that, like, that's who I am. If momentarily I appear as a Republican, it's because those are my beliefs, right? That's just what I am. In 10 years from now, the Republican Party might shift and then I won't be Republican anymore. So what you have to do is kind of plant your feet and decide like what you're for, right? Like God, country, your freedom to not believe in God, your freedom to go, have same-sex marriage, to transition, to whatever. You define what you believe in, and then you plant your feet there. And it doesn't matter which way, like, I don't know, it's like like seaweed or something growing out of the ocean floor. Like, doesn't matter which way the tides go. Stand up for what you believe in. And if people say, well, dude, you can't attack people in our own ranks, fuck you. I'm not, there are no ranks. I'm standing up for what I believe in. And when you stand up for what you believe in, people notice that, and people will be drawn towards you because you're being genuine. They go, that guy doesn't care. You're like, I thought that guy was an evil Republican, but he's now calling out the BS that they're doing. When you do that, it's kind of like, I think it's a Winnie the Pooh quote, right? If you tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. You don't have to keep a face. Wait, whose alliances are we doing? No, we're going to betray them, but right now we are doing a momentary alliance with them because they can do us a favor over. No, just have a very simple operating code. Tell the truth and stand up for what you believe in.
And that's so important, because the way we got into this mess.
You can tell I start to get excited when my white Irish face gets blood red. I start screaming about freedom, and I get sorry.
But so people claim that they know what they believe in, right? And that they're rooted in what they believe in. Yet they agree with things that they morally, ethically, and intellectually oftentimes don't even agree with. Yeah. They get into business dealings where there's something about it morally, ethically, intellectually that they don't agree with. So they're agreeing with things that they don't agree with because, oh gosh, that money is so good. Yeah. Or, oh gosh, I need to stay on this person's podcast, you know? Yeah. And that's sin. I mean, that's, and I think take the plank out of our eyes before, you point out the splinter in others. So the way America got in this mess, remember, the medical community is one big community. They all support one another because of legal reasons and financial reasons. So like when the vaccines came out, the government's paying for it, the doctors are making, and they're not vaccines, and we know they're bioweapons, but just, but the doctors are all making, if you inject 400 children will give you enough money to make a down payment on a multi-million-dollar home in Rancho Santa Fe. And they're like, this is too big, good to be true because it's evil. So, but if there's something going on in our movement, where, we're like, hey, COVID-19 isn't really that deadly, barely, if you're healthy, basically, and under 65, you have a 99.997% of survival rate, but buy this supplement so that you don't die from COVID-19 and use referral fee, blah, 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 blah. And then you're kind of like, well, wait, why am I spending $30 on a vitamin C zinc supplement that I can get for $7? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and everyone's like, but the money's so good. And we're saying, and I'm like, you're literally doing exactly what you said the evil pharmaceutical companies were doing.
Always be aware of the grift.
Yeah. So I know people. So this is why, Tommy, nobody likes me in my industry. Because I was called in. I was called in to be like, when I was called in, really when things are morally and like the laws were put in place because things are morally and ethically wrong. That's why they were put in place. So there's many like anti-kickback laws, there's price gouging laws, there's all these laws that were put in place because it is unethical and in pharmaceuticals, but it also applies to other businesses. So, just because you got to think through, everyone wants that dream of becoming rich overnight or a millionaire overnight. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is, And so I think a lot of people don't know this. Like, I'm trying to figure out a way, and this is not an ask for money. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can make money doing what I do, and that's in alignment with my moral and ethical standards, as well as with the gift that God gave me as far as my being an analyst. And it's not. I love all these guys, but I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to be like, hey, in order for me to be properly compensated for my biotech analyst skills, I need to sell 1,000 units of this Arbonne serum with this code, and then I'll get paid. I'm like, can I just get paid? Like, the evil empire of Big Pharma used to pay me really well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think of like how like I tried to get Anthony Fauci on my podcast.
No way.
I just got a very quick rejection. It happened. I get rejected 99% of the time. But there are so many like.
But that means there's a chance. There's still a chance.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. There's always a non-0% chance. I was recently rejected by J.K. Rowling, and I was like, all right, cool. Got a response from your secretary. That's still cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, you. There is that like. I know. I mean, like I didn't just get banned from YouTube. Like, how did this happen? Like, I knew it was happening. I could see the multiple steps of them literally saying, if you do this 2 more times, you're banned. If you do this 1 more time, you're banned. Okay, you did it. We're going to give you a 1-week break. After that, you're gone forever. And I had every option. And I felt like pat myself on my own back, but I am kind of using as an example of practicing what I preach. I could have very easily gone, I'm 31. I'm building this podcast to be a source of income. I definitely do not have the financial flexibility to take a moral stand to get banned from YouTube. It's the biggest platform with 2 billion people on it. It's completely free. They can monetize it. They have algorithms. Everyone knows YouTube. Everyone has a YouTube account. It's as universal as Facebook. But I still walked directly into that, knowing full well that. And then I did the last one. And as soon as I uploaded the one that got me banned, I was like, I know this is going to get me banned. And I got banned. I've been permanently banned. Shifted to Rumble. It's like, all right, Rumble is not YouTube. This really sucks. I went from like 5,500 subscribers to 100 on Rumble. And I was like, this blows. Now I'm almost up to 10,000 on Rumble. But the point is you have to but my logic was this. Because I remember thinking about it. I was like meditating and I was like, right now, the little voice in my head was like, this isn't your fight. Like, your podcast is small. You need to turn this into a business so that you can be self-sufficient financially. Like, this isn't your fight. Like, Joe Rogan can do this. And then the other little voice in my head was like,
and then you're like, get behind me, Satan.
Yeah, exactly. But then the other side of me was like, if you can't do this now, how are you going to do it in 10 years? And I remember like when I was pre-med, there was always one quote I loved, and it was like, if you can't like do the dishes properly, how are you going to run a Fortune 500 company properly? And like, that's why I would always like make my bed and like even to go in the bathroom, just my vanity, like straighten out my toothbrush, like pull the shower curtain closed. Little things, put your shoes next to the door, make them touching, just like little stuff that, yeah, it's probably also clinical OCD, but it's do it well. Because when you do it well, it then cascades into bigger and bigger things to where even the biggest decisions you make, you are doing it well. There's like another quote, watch the pennies and the dollars will watch themselves. So I'll finish up this rant. But the point is
Yeah.
like, that's when I was like, I'm going to get banned now because I have to act the same way as a shitty podcast doing it from an apartment that I would if I was running Joe Rogan's empire. And if I don't do it now, when am I? That's like saying I'll start working out tomorrow. No, 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 no,
I
no.
know.
You go to the gym today because if you can't do it today, how in the hell are you going to do it tomorrow? So you do have to sort of plant your feet and do that. And once you kind of have the balls to do that, it also makes you start to sort of see the matrix, like what you're talking about. You see people
Yes.
within your side, the right, and it's like I think one of like the big conservative voices like tweeted like last Sunday. It was like Christ is king, and then like the pinned comment under it was like use like promo code like whatever Tim Pool to get 10% off my pillow.
I know.
I was like,
I know.
no one sees that, but it doesn't matter because it's our guy. And I'm like, well, now it is. You're just as bad as the other side.
So there's two.
Sorry.
So I know because there's two things I want to talk about. One is again the love of money, but you brought up two, and the other one is the discipline. But I want to talk about the love of money, because so you were able to say, yeah, ching ching. You were able to say, look, I'm willing to put my faith in the intelligence and the skills that God gave me, and and my moral and ethical codes that God gave me, and walk away from this. And so, the love of money is the root of all evil, causing man to turn from his faith and pierce his heart with deep sorrows. So we hear these people saying, because I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I knew what I did financially, liability wise, safety wise. So what people are saying, I can't come out and say the truth because such and such organization or university is going to sue me, or I can't say the truth because I can't then continue to work in this organization and I'm going to get fired, or I have to go get the vaccine because I need my job. So my question to those people is, who's in charge of your life? Is it God or is it money? Because it sounds like if you can't do this, because at the end of the day it has to do with either making money or losing money, I can tell you God's not running your life. Money is. If that's what if at the end of the day that's what your decisions are contingent on, whether or not you're going to make money or lose money, you just gave the steering wheel over to Satan.
Yeah.
I mean, to a dark side, to not the greatest version of yourself that's out there.
And don't be surprised when you are faced with either the repercussions of that and or that moral leniency start bleeding into other aspects of your life.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So yeah, there's no
It starts to spill over into other things. You start
it
to
does.
even like what I start cutting corners on going to the gym. Then I also start cutting corners on like saving money. I also start cutting corners on like, yeah, maybe whatever. Maybe I won't prepare as much for the podcast. Who cares if the audio is a little messed up? Who cares if you start cutting corners and it is a downward spiral. And sometimes it takes a while, but it will ultimately manifest in the bigger picture. And then all of a sudden you're sit there going, how is my product, my job, my life a mess?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it starts with a little tiny, you didn't do the laundry. There's a little
Yeah.
shit.
And here's the other thing too, is like for people that sell products, I have no problems with selling products. I'm sure in the future I'm going to be
Wild.
selling something, right? But like it has
Shit,
to be.
I'd sell face cream if I could make some money. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not
No,
against it.
but there's fair market value too, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to sit there and go, okay, what's in alignment with who you are, that you actually believe that you're providing value to people. And I think that's great. That's fine. But then, the other thing is, what happened with these quote unquote vaccines, these bioweapons, is all the laws and regulations for the pharma companies and biotech were lifted, right? And I think sometimes people get into businesses, whether it's selling nutraceuticals or whether they're saying, hey, move your money into gold to this guy, like, so they get into financial planning. I was like, do you realize that there are careers, disciplines, and these things called laws that regulate these industries? And there's very specific things you can and cannot do. And sometimes it varies by state, And so, but if you're like, wow, this sounds great, like, Patriots tell everyone to do their own research, but then they get involved in businesses where you're like, did you do the basic research about your legal liabilities in this sector?
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry. I know everyone's
no,
like, she is absolutely no fun on any
no,
level
no,
whatsoever.
but what it is it's defining what you're like, what you're for. I mean, like, let's go back to World War II America, the War Powers Act, industrializing every aspect of America to produce ships, planes, tanks, helmets, artillery shells, whatever. Everyone's on board 100%. We got to beat the Nazis at all costs. It's a technologically advanced race who are incinerating people with a train system, as well as the Japanese, a radical empire who attacked Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, and they use the police throughout Europe to get many of those people onto those trains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
And
we're
then what are they
looking.
doing with our police? Can you go on?
So we're looking at a monster force. We have to go fight this. We cannot be isolationists. This is our duty as humans. Okay, got it. Good. Even then, I like that it was actually Truman before he was vice president. He was either in charge of or headed up whatever the fraud, waste, and abuse kind of investigations into American defense contractors and businesses. So despite the fact that we were sending, I think at our height, it was like 8 million soldiers abroad, we ended up losing 425,000 deaths. Despite all of that, despite the war effort, we still had guys with our own ranks that were like, go make sure nobody's double dipping. And if you did, you'd go to jail. And it was like, there were a lot of people that are like, well, like, we can't attack our own guys. We're fighting the Nazis. Like, maybe we should, look the other
Yeah, I
way.
know. Yeah.
No, we still went in and we're like, fuck you, jail. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
I
We're fighting
know.
the Nazis. It doesn't matter. So that's maybe it's just romanticism or rose tinted glasses. But I look at that and I'm like, even when fighting the Nazis, we still were looking around our own guys and we're like, if that guy's charging more for rifles, throw him in jail. And it was like there was a certain level of moral standard. And again, I'm sure there's a ton of bias as I have the
Because
flag
that's
behind
why
me.
we're in this mess, is because this country moved. There was no more moral standards, right?
Yeah.
We said this America, this country was founded under God, and somehow in the last 20, 30 years, Americans went, God, we got this. We're good.
Yeah.
We're going to let these demonic evil people tell us what to do, how to raise our children, how to control our financial systems, and deregulate every major industry so people
Yeah.
can make more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then when COVID, everyone shut down, they're like, free money. Everyone's like, socialism is great. You're like, no, it's evil. It's enslavement. You
Yeah.
know?
It's the whole Joe Biden's running up the debt. And it's like, hey man, I voted for Trump, but I mean, did he not print like $4 trillion like summer 2020? Like, well, it was different. That was Donald Trump. He was making it. But no, like you
No, it
can't
was bad.
close one eye and go Trump is fine and then go Biden's evil. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that? Like, and you know, the other thing is like what I do like though, the optimism in me. I am
There's
pleasant.
optimism.
You have to stay optimistic. You can't to me, like not being optimistic is just like completely giving in to like the devil. No, like, you gotta
Yeah.
always see the silver lining, even if the sky's black. Just to spite evil, just go like, fuck it, I still see the silver lining, even if it's pitch black. Just to last middle finger, like. So when I look at that, the optimism I do see is the very slowly, and it's kind of gaining steam. But I mean, even just like people celebrating over like Elon Musk buying Twitter, people who
Mhm.
still won't give in to like vaccines, people who still won't, like, you almost have to have the evil on the outside to galvanize like the dying heart of America. It's very easy to just forget about God or forget about free speech or forget about the Second Amendment. It's all slipping away. When the evil oversteps, that's when you kind of see if you're worth your weight in gold. And
Mhm.
I mean, I'm
Or
pleasant.
salt.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
pleasantly
yeah, yeah, yeah.
surprised at like how many people are standing up and being like, fuck yeah, like, no, like this thing's not over, you know. And then if you push it long enough, the truth eventually breaks through. I mean, look at what's happened in the last 2 days or so with Elon taking over Twitter. I
Yeah.
mean, the massive jumps in subscribers to like right-leaning voices that happened overnight. And so now like the theory is that they were running like, very extensive algorithms suppressing conservatives and elevating liberals. And now that Elon's bought it, and they're allowed to do that, right? You're a private company, but this is the theory. The theory is that apparatus was shut down overnight because maybe it wasn't all kosher. Maybe there
Yeah.
was a liaison office with the government. Maybe it was a violation of the First Amendment. So it kind of seems, I think a great comment I saw was like, this is Enron shredding papers, but we're just seeing it digitally.
Yeah. So here, so you, if you, I have faith too and hope in the battle, right? Too,
You have
and
to.
it's related to what you're just talking about with Twitter,
Yeah.
because the way we got into this mess is that there's we were lied to, we were betrayed, we were deceived. Everything was a lie. I mean, everything was a lie about COVID-19 and SARS-CoV-2 and the injection. I mean, there. And so, but what happening and wearing a mask, and what happened was well-intentioned people were searching for the truth in something that had no truth in it, because the truth was constantly being silenced and the lies were becoming louder and more ubiquitous and more repetitive. So people are like, how do we get out of this mess? I'm like, it's easy. Stop negotiating with a lie and
Yeah.
just speak the truth,
Yeah.
right? When Jesus prayed for his disciples, sanctify them with your word. So we're going to sanctify them with the truth. Your word is the truth. You want to save this country? You want to purify this country from the evil that's in it? All you have to do is stop negotiating with a lie. Don't try to find a common ground in a lie. Speak the truth. Turn the flashlight on in the dark, and the dark goes away.
I'll work out tomorrow. No, stop negotiating with that fat little bitch inside of you. No.
Stop
I'll go to
it.
McDonald's tonight, but tomorrow, no, you're not. Tonight, you're eating cauliflower and chicken, and it's going to be disgusting. But you're starting today.
Yeah, but no, but
Don't
I mean, people,
negotiate.
but like if someone is like all excited about their triple boosted and they still want to wear masks, right? And they're putting that in your face, just be like, you know what?
Godspeed.
I'm sorry to hear, that that you got information that was incorrect, and but I'm happy to hear that you're healthy, and I'll pray that you actually that you have there's wisdom and enlightenment comes to you, but don't sit there and go, oh, that's great, because you and you're don't agree with something you don't agree with. If someone's triple vax, don't tell them that's great, because it's not great. You're sinning when you do that. Just say, I'm sorry to hear that you got misinformation, and but I'm happy to hear that your health your health is good right now, and I'll pray for wisdom. Something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but don't tell someone, like, if someone did something that's horrible for them or their children, like, don't tell them it's great. And if enough people start going to them like, huh, I don't think that was the best idea, but I'm glad you're feeling healthy now and I'll pray for you. 3 or 4 people start saying this to these crazy triple boosted people, or sorry, deceived, not crazy, deceived. They'll start to go, I wonder if I made a mistake. And maybe we can even wake up that 30% that, doesn't seem to be movable at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No. But to me, it kind of, the whole don't negotiate with it, kind of, it comes back to like when I look at a huge like YouTube account, someone like Tim Pool, that is pro America, pro whatever. I'm not gonna say you're not. I don't know you. I've never met you. But then like talking about the dangers of violations of free speech, but will not do an episode with like Dr. McCullough or Dr. Malone, which you have no excuse for, because if I can get in touch with them in a little apartment by my own podcast, you certainly can, Mr. Multi-million subscriber. But I'll just single that one out, not to bully him, but I'll single that one out. He's someone that it's more of like the grift, it's like he has risen, use promo code. He's one more of he does the all caps titles and the clickbait thumbnails, and it's like free speech under attack. But he'll never say the word ivermectin. He'll never say 2020 election was stolen. You can see him scold people when they will say something. He'll be like, I'll edit that out. Like, he won't put it online. And to me, I'm like, you're not genuinely for it if you actually won't participate. So it's like, I could stay on YouTube and you go, just don't say those things, and we'll try to wake people up another way. No, the way to go is, if I can't say this, then get kicked off. End of
Yeah.
story. And
Yeah.
if enough people do that, that will make a much larger shift than any, because otherwise you're kind of dancing with, how bad is it
Yes.
if you're willing to negotiate? No, what did we do in World War II? Unconditional surrender. There was
Yeah.
no like, well, maybe we'll
It's
talk it out. It's no,
it,
we're going to nuke your women and children until this is over. When, so get banned versus you can't negotiate with, and not, well, I won't say ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, but I'm still going to fight the communists. No, you're not. No, you're
yeah.
not. Just say what the truth is, get banned, and middle fingers up. You cannot play in a rigged system. You cannot
Yeah.
play. You have to leave. You can't do it. If you go to
Yeah.
a casino and you know for a fact that it's all stacked, what lie are you?
Well, you can't negotiate with evil. I mean,
It's
look
not.
at
Yeah, you can't dance with the devil.
when the world leaders were trying to appease Hitler.
It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it's just going
It
to keep
doesn't
taking
work.
ground. Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Now you're getting me all revved up.
I'm getting all revved up. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
So, but I
But
think that's an important thing. Like, but it's even little things. Like it is, like you're saying, like in your routines, it's those little things. And I live in Southern California, and I mean, when I repented, when I learned what this plan was, because it's so demonic. I mean, I went through back in my life being like, how many times did I agree with, not want to getting in an argument with a mom at a Christmas party because her daughter was becoming a boy and then non-gender and all this other stuff, and I was being apologetic for not getting the identity right. It's like, no, I should have been like, your child's under a lot of emotional stress, and I can see why, because you're her mother. I mean, like, I'm
yeah,
like, and like, go get it. No, not that mean, but you know what I mean. But she needs therapy. But instead, I was trying to negotiate and appease this, um, you know, hurtful, sinful thing that these parents were doing to their child. And I think, and so I guess like it's those little things now, like, and I know I mean, this isn't about things that are preferential, like, where someone, you know, is drinking, I don't know, French press coffee. You're like, that's disgusting. How could you do that? How could you not use a perculator? I mean, I'm not talking about stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. How do
I'm
you
talking
like
about
that
like,
band? Yeah,
yeah, or like, yeah, but I'm talking about, just the basic 10 commandments, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, if they're going against those things, like, you got to speak out. If someone like legitimately thinks that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man, you got to be like, you're I'm sorry, but you're really mistaken. Like, you're completely mistaken. You're so confused, right? And if you can't get if you don't have the basic understanding about the difference between a man and a woman, I'm happy to to explain that to you, or go into an unabridged dictionary. Don't Google it today. Like, then you can be confused about anything,
yeah,
and you could be led to the slaughter.
yeah,
So let's start talking about absolute truth, because if you have no absolute truth in God's greatest creation, which is man and woman, you're gonna be manipulated and led to the slaughter. And that's what's happened in this nation. So it's important. It's the loving thing to do, to tell someone the truth. It's like those parents who tell a kid that that, oh my gosh, you're so talented, you've got the most beautiful singing voice, you're gonna, you could be a huge star and actress and stuff, and they're terrible. You're just setting them up for annihilation in the real world.
yeah,
So
yeah,
when we lie to these people who think the vaccines are good, or that changing their children's gender is a good idea, we're just setting them up for annihilation.
yeah, yeah. You're ultimately, yeah. It's like, I think Dave Chappelle has a quote, and it's like, if someone wants to chop off their genitals and wear a dress, like, go for it. Personally, I'm like, that's not me. Go for it. But I think of Dave Chappelle's quote, and it's, you are allowed to be whatever you want in your own self image. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't be. The defining line is, when do I have to participate in your self image? You can
Yeah, and your
you
delusion.
you
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
come on here, Karen, and you can believe that you are a 7'4" black NBA star.
yeah,
Go for it. I will not address you as a NBA champion. I'm just not going to. You're
yeah,
not. You're Karen Kingston. I'm Tommy
Yeah,
Carrigan. Like
yeah.
you can. So in that sense, I get it, but there is, I think,
But that's emotional and intellectual and spiritual, childlike immaturity. So I had my oldest
sure.
brother when he was little, before I was even born. He's 10 years older than me. People would ask him. My mom has all these memories when people ask us what we want to be when we grow up, and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I want to be a black man," because he wanted to play in the NBA. Right, so that's like, you know what I mean? And my brother's like a 6'2" white guy, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? But like, it wasn't, it's not,
it was
yeah. So it's
when
this childish,
my oldest brother too. My oldest brother John. There's, I think, before I was born, but my mom has stories like we grew up, like my mom's sister lived next door to us, and like always grew up playing with my cousins. But my mom always talks about how like my older brother would always be like, they'd be like, we're thinking about getting like a puppy or something, and he'd be like, I want a dinosaur, and they'd be like, well, we can't get. But then my aunt would always just say, hey, I'll get you a dinosaur, and my parents were like, stop. They're like, stop it, because he'd be like, don't worry, no, Aunt Sue's getting me, and they'd be like, you really have to stop because we can say that today, but it's gonna hit a brick wall tomorrow. And she was like, no, I'll get you a brontosaur. And it was like, hey, like you really, you're fucking this kid up. But like,
yeah,
yeah, there is that, but but there is greatness, and like again, back to like the optimism, the positivity, um, like Elon Musk buying Twitter, and I think he made like a tweet yesterday or like the day before, and it was the severe antibody reaction to free speech says it all. And it's got like 2 million likes. And you see that and you're like, now like the algorithms are like being turned off, and you see how many people actually support it. And
wow,
the top comment will be like, free speech doesn't cover hate speech. But instead of it being boosted up now you just see it with like 10,000 comments under it, like, yeah, it fucking does. Like,
yeah,
free speech covers hate speech. And you have the right to just log off Twitter. Like people are,
exactly,
how are you going to handle misinformation and disinformation? And the reality is none of us know what is real. So the only thing you can do is open the floodgates. And then you use your own critical thinking. People are like, well, this is going to be dangerous. We're going to see what Musk is, what his new free speech platform is like for misinformation and disinformation. We're going to have to see this new experiment in humanity. This is how
yeah,
humanity has operated for the last 10 millennia. We've only been on a 4-year deviation from it with social media and censorship. We've been, hey, for a long time, the earth being round was disinformation. And then we found that it wasn't. It just,
yeah,
you have to let it all flow. And again, you can't negotiate with it. You can't go, well, maybe some things are disinformation. No, you have to go free speech. Well, Tommy, like, okay, let's use an example. How about you and I, Karen, you and I start going on right now about how we know for a fact the world is flat. We know scientifically that that's false.
hmm,
Yes, we still have to be able to go out and say that. Well, what if
yeah,
stupid people believe you? It is now their responsibility to parrot that, get made fun of, and do their own research. And now they find out it isn't. You cannot have a big brother who is going through the flow of reality, and it's like a secretary, and they're going through it first. They're going misinformation, disinformation, fact, misinformation. That's not how the world works. It's
yeah.
not at all how it works.
But I think part of what's happening is people do, so they're saying, so when I used to teach communication principles, relevance, credibility, and trust, right? So like, relate to your audience in words they understand and something they care about. But credibility relevant, credibility, impact. Credibility is why someone should trust you, right? And so you trust a person sometimes by just their status, sometimes by who they're associated with, and then sometimes by their actual deeds, right? Then you establish trust with them. But what happens over time is, like, once you've established trust with them, you start trusting everything that person says and
Yeah.
everything that person does. And that's again, that's also a sin. So I don't, like, people are like, well, where'd you get this information from? Like, I don't want to hear people say, well, Karen Kingston said it, so it must be true. No, 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 no.
No, no, no.
It
Yeah.
must be, if I was the original source, that's one thing, but it must be true because if you say Karen Kingston said this and she provided this reference and I looked at it, and I love it when people tell me that they fact check me. I think that's
Yes.
awesome.
That's the
You know,
best.
that's the best. That's the best. They're like, I went to the FDA website and sure enough, that it was there. It was there. You can't dispute it. It's not, because if you start saying Karen Kingston said it, or Dr. Malone said it, or Dr. McCullough said it, well, now you're putting all your trust in a man and not in God. And your intelligence comes from God, not from
Yeah.
man. So you're putting a curse on those people. So please don't curse me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And they're sitting themselves if they put themselves up on that pedestal, right?
Yeah.
So, because again, like God is not giving you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. What does that mean? That means your authority comes from God. Your love and compassion and empathy for other people comes from God. You can use discernment on how you're going to handle yourself in a pandemic, and your intelligence comes from God, right?
It's when you start saying, well, so and so told me. You're
Yeah,
also
that's
now completely banking on that person never being flawed, which we
yeah,
all are. So, I mean, I'd love my parents more than anything. I'm sure at some point they have fucked up. And I'm sure right.
well,
I
we
mean,
all have, yeah,
but that's what I mean is we can be like, well, no, dude, Dr. So and so said it to me. Well, like Dr. So and so also has bad days. Dr. So and
yeah,
so also Dr. Malone. Well, maybe Dr. Malone has a bad day one day and just slips and says something that isn't true.
yeah,
What if
yeah,
what if I start lying on this? What if I just turn tomorrow and just go, fuck it, I just want to make as much money on this podcast as I possibly can, and I just start making up accusations? Well, anyone that I've built rapport with who quotes me, you can't do that. It's the same exact problem. You can't just go, no. CNN said it's fake.
yeah,
Dr. Malone said it. No. If it's factual, then it's true. Rip it apart. It all has to be upheld. It all has to be able to withstand the blinding light of examination. It doesn't. I don't need to sit here and argue with you about that gravity is 9.81 meters per second square. I don't need to put a little misinformation label on it. I don't have to
mhm,
say fact checkers have said it. No, do whatever you want. Get a high-speed camera, get some weights, get in a vacuum, drop it, examine it from every angle, calculate
mhm.
it. It's what it is. And
Yeah,
if
it is
and
what
if
it is.
you
Yeah,
somehow find out it's not, well, then you get a Nobel Prize for re-examining the law of gravity. And I'm wrong.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
those things that you don't have to shelter. It's just what it is. You don't have to
yeah,
argue it. You don't have to. It's like when like like colleagues or like a couple will be like, they'll have to go to court and it'll be like, don't tell me about your thing. Don't tell me about we don't need to know each other's thing because you want to
yeah,
be able to say, you want to be able to pass a lie detector and go, no, I have not talked to anybody about this. It's that simple. Just so when it's just the truth, it's just,
yeah.
it's just what it is. And the second you fall, it's what the comedian Tim Dillon says about, which I think is actually applicable to what you and I are talking about. And he said, political parties, what political parties are they are lenses that allow you to shirk the heavy weight of independent thinking.
Yes, that's such a
So,
great, yeah.
so like, let's say like right now, you and I bring up a bill being passed, and we don't know if this is under Joe Biden. We don't know if this was under President Trump. We don't know.
Hmm.
You and I have to look at it right now and go, well, who passed this? Was this Joe Biden? Well, I don't like it. That guy's a communist. Trump said it. Well, yeah, well, he's pro-America. That's completely lacking.
Yeah.
It's like we've all seen those videos of like going around college campuses and be like, what do you think about Joe Biden's tax plan? And they'll be like, oh, I think it's great. And they'll be like, how do you feel that this was under Donald Trump? Or vice versa. You can go up to
Hmm.
guys and be like, what do you think about Donald Trump's healthcare plan? They'll be like, this is strong and it's what we need. What's actually Joe Biden's?
Yeah. And that's sin. Sin means, as you know, it means to miss the mark. So you're
Yeah.
completely missing the mark when your belief systems, as what you believe is true, false, good, bad, is based on a person.
Yeah.
You've completely missed the mark and the
Yeah.
whole point. So we're here. You and I are talking right now, and others are listening, and others will respond because we're all teachers to one another. We're
Yeah.
teaching more about who we were created to be and who we are not through all of these interactions. Right? That's what's happening. And I think so. If you start saying it's based on my belief system is based on this person, you're
No
you're
good.
not you're gonna end up in a not a happy place,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And then now all you're doing to that person. So let's say you put your belief system in just in me. And you go, well, Tommy said it. And maybe I've been right in the past. Well, you have to think, so why are you shirking independent thought? Well, deep down, when you really examine it, you go, oh, it's well, because I don't want to think for myself. So I just everything a Republican does is good. Everything a Democrat does is bad. Well, so you're now saying that they have figured it out. Well, who are they?
Yeah.
They are people just like you and me. and maybe are they taking orders from someone else who they think is right? Eventually the buck stops somewhere, and you have someone that is examining objective reality.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, why can't you? It's like people that would like freak out on like Facebook whenever I'd post an interview of Dr. Malone or Dr. McCullough. They'd be like, you are spreading harmful misinformation and disinformation. Like, I never engage online, but every once in a while I'd have a couple beers and I'd be like, fuck it, come here, what do you got to say? And
It's
like,
the worst.
yeah, it's the
Put
worst, but it's
down
also
put
but
down the beer and walk away from the from the
sometimes
media. Yeah,
sometimes
Facebook,
it's fun. And like, and so but so ultimately, like, the kind of blanket response I came up with after a lot of these interactions was, so they say, you're perpetuating disinformation from Dr. McCullough or Dr. Malone. You're hurting people, you're killing people. Okay, that's your thesis. Let's say this is just you saying this, Karen. Were you tricked by my misinformation podcast with Dr. Malone and Dr. McCullough? No, I was not. Why are you not? Because I hit you with the misinformation and disinformation. Well, no, because I knew it was bullshit. I looked it up and realized it was bullshit. So if you can do that, why can't everyone else around you do that? And ultimately, what it means is they're passively admitting, because everyone around me is too dumb to think for themselves.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
So not only is that an insult, that is far more dangerous than misinformation and disinformation is going, these retards can't think for themselves. I got to decide what's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's exactly what it is that when they declared this, pandemic, global governments said, look, people, you do not have enough caring and empathy in your heart
You
to
don't
be
know what's
compassionate
right.
for your neighbor. You're not intelligent enough to understand the science. Trust the science to the experts.
Trust the science. Smash everyone else.
You're too stupid, and you're also too heartless. So we need to come into control. So I'll send you this paper out. You know Professor Jordan Peterson, right?
Yeah.
Have we talked about that before?
Yeah.
He covered this paper like 8 years ago, and it's called "Pathogens in Politics: Further Evidence That Parasite Prevalence Predicts Authoritarianism." What this paper explains, and they did it across 31 nations, about 100 years of history. Different political, leanings, from everything from complete liberal, democracies to, tyrannical authoritarian governments. So 31 nations. They looked, and then within certain nations, it looked like smaller cultures, so counties and states, if you will, in the U.S., or Aborigine cultures. And what they found, what the scientists and researchers found, it's a very well written, well referenced study, that the correlation, if you introduce the concept of a very virulent pathogen, so a virus, right, that's very infectious and could be very deadly, it's a 0.65. So a correlation of 1, the R factor, the 1 is perfect. It's like 100%, but it's not 100%. But the p-values are 0.01, so it's like 100%. It's 100%. And then if you got like a -1, that would be an inverse relationship, right? So that would be like saying, like an inverse relationship would be like, the hypothesis is like the more you eat,
the less fast you can run.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's a perfect correlation. So if you introduce a pathogen, highly virulent pathogen, it's a 0.65. That's a very strong correlation. But then if you add to that there are still unknown factors, that's a 0.85 correlation. That though two things are found. One, that individuals will take on an authoritarian personality, which means they want authoritarian government to be put in place. And it also means that the likelihood of the authoritarian government to emerge is almost a 0.5, which is moderate. But it's not the virus that drives the emergence of the authoritarian government. It is individual personalities that then are willing to, and they bullet it out here.
Inverted totalitarianism.
This is what they're willing to give up because of the threat of a highly infectious, deadly virus with unknown factors. Nearly 100% correlation. So this explains why 85% of Americans blindly followed Fauci. They're willing to give up and take on an authoritarian personality, which means they're willing to give their civil liberties and all their rules over to an individual, a leader, or a small group. And they're willing to give up their political rights. They're willing to give up many of their civil liberties. They're willing to give up competition and participation in the electoral process. I'm not making this stuff up. This was studied with strong p-values. And they're also willing to give up the right to own and accrue property. If you introduce this, and this was done over like 100 years of analysis, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? Because we're sitting here, I know when everyone's like, they locked down the country, everyone's listening to Fauci, there was probably about 20% or so of us were like, this seems kind of crazy. Like, why is everyone doing this? So they studied this after years, after year, after year. And what they found was that the longer the threat of parasitic stress stays in a region, the more likely an authoritarian government will emerge and then be sustained. And even if that authoritarian government is one day overthrown, if there is a heritage of parasitic threat there constantly, there's a higher probability that authoritarian government will then again gain power. What do you think is going on with all the variants and all the threats?
If that doesn't sound like the
you know where I got this from? The NIH PubMed website.
This actually works perfectly, because the episode I did prior to this with Dr. Malone and Dr. Desmet, we talked about people wanting to be under the boot. And so this actually dovetails perfectly.
I'll email this to you. I don't have their contact information. Send it to Dr. Malone. He'll find it fascinating.
I absolutely will. I'll send him this episode.
He should watch Professor Peterson's analysis, not mine on it. I get on with Brandon, and I always have like technical difficulties, and then
okay, no, please do. Yeah. Please do text me that paper.
Yeah, he mind-blowing. This should be. So the funny thing is, Jordan Peterson, it's not really funny, but in this sick world, you got to find humor sometimes, sarcasm. So Jordan Peterson at the University of Toronto, and he was the professor there, he was saying, this is unbelievable. He goes, I really think this is Nobel Prize winning. He's like, I'm surprised this isn't the front page headlines on every newspaper around the globe. He goes, I don't know why. And I was like, literally what he said. And it's like, time machine capsule. Hey, Professor Peterson, the reason why is because this is their master plan to execute a mass psyop to, basically exploit tyranny and authoritarian governments all around the globe at the same time.
That's like giving a speech at like the Reichstag building and being like, our country is actually primed for a dictator to take over and start killing people. And Hitler being like, yeah, it's not important right now. I wonder why.
No, but Jordan Peterson said in 2013, and then think about, I think Jordan Peterson I do believe he's been anointed by God, because then it was 2018 that he became famous because he was like, no. The government doesn't tell me what pronouns to use. He's like, once the government starts controlling your language, he's like, that's not the beginning of tyranny. He's like, he's like, that's not the beginning of the indication of tyranny. He goes, that is tyranny. He's like, you will be in the gulag if they start controlling language. So, but it's just really interesting stuff. I would love, maybe you could do a podcast where you get the behavioral scientists the scientists.
I've tried so many times to get Jordan Peterson on. I can't get a response.
Oh, sorry.
In time, I just got to get bigger. It'll happen. But no, I think that's a brilliant, if you get him with, because my most viewed episode is Dr. Malone and Dr. McCullough with Dr. Desmet. It's two physicians with a psychologist, like a social psychologist.
Yeah.
And it was the marriage, and that's exactly what the episode an hour ago was those two getting to, and you just see them bouncing off one another. And it's, please text me that paper, and I will literally send that to Dr. Malone immediately, because I think he would love that. But I wanted to say, and I got to run because the next guest is jumping in here.
Oh, sure.
But I want to say, in kind of closing what you just said about like, just like do everything well, like brush your teeth, floss, shave, comb your hair, and that will carry over into the bigger aspects of life to ultimately where you can run a Joe Rogan empire and you're still doing it. You can see the inverse with tyranny. When you allow them to say like, no, you need to address this person as a man or a woman, or no. You now it's like people saying like, I'm not going to provide proof of vaccination. I'm going to provide proof of like of antibodies. No, provide
No,
proof of nothing,
nothing,
because
nothing.
it's the same. I didn't have to show them my vaccine card. I just show them that I have an antibody. No, show them
No,
fucking nothing. Show them two
no.
middle fingers and an American flag and
Well,
walk
no,
on in.
no. Or you say my authority comes from God and you pray for them, or your
Yeah.
way. I mean, I'm just saying.
Or
I
both.
would.
Or both. Start with the subtle hand and you finish with the middle fingers. Put on a powdered wig and start fucking singing the national anthem.
So
But
what
also,
what I tell people when I'm challenged with that, or happened in San Diego with wearing the mask and stuff, you know what I do? I mean, I try to come from a place of compassion and actually from truth. I say you're very confused.
yeah.
I was like, there's no mandate. Mandates aren't enforceable. You're very confused. And I go, ma'am, would you like a mask? And I'm like, no, 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 thank you. I'm perfectly healthy, and so are you. You could take yours off. They're like, but there's a mandate. I'm like, no, you're confused.
Yeah.
You're really confused, and I'll pray
Yeah.
that you actually get clarity. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of, and then it leaves people like, what? Like they're
Yeah.
like they don't know how to
Yeah.
handle that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's you just, yeah. That's what you say to, and then another thing I would kind of just do to like break the conditioning sometimes is I would, like, during the pandemic, I would just walk into a store and I would just go, I'm vaxxed, and just keep walking. And they're like, oh, but I'm not. But you just fucking lie to them and they don't care because they heard the magic keyword. Vaxxed. All right, he's good. It's just not real.
Oh
It's just
yeah,
not fucking
yeah.
real.
No, I know. It's just it is a tough time, but you know what, Tommy? I think you're doing great. I'm so honored that Dr. McCullough introduced me to you. Like you're just taking off.
Oh,
I mean, you're an
you.
unapologetic voice of truth, and you got, you got fire.
I
I think
got the,
we
you
need,
got the literal fire. It comes up into my cheeks.
so in Ayurveda in Indian, right? The red hair is pitta. It's fire. It means like you're literally filled with fire. So we need some fire. We need some good fire here to, yeah, to purify this country and with
you,
truth. And that's
you,
what you're doing.
you could mute my podcast and watch it, and you could tell which podcasts are about liberty because my face turns red. I just start screaming. I just got jacked up. But please, can you please text that to me like
I
immediately?
sure will.
And I'm
No,
going
it's
to.
my information I'm holding on to.
This is I got it from Carrie. No, yeah. Please send it to me. I will send it to Dr. Malone. That would be
Let
awesome.
him know, because I mean I even called some doctors this week who did some not obviously not nowhere in the league of Dr. Malone, but like some people I was just like, why didn't you just, like, I literally was did scientific editorial review. I'm like, why didn't you call me before, like, just to ask if I could send you some data to substantiate what you're saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like.
It just send it to me. I'll send it to him. It's the wall is slowly breaking down, and
Yeah.
it's accelerating, and I cannot wait to see like what the next couple months of a free Twitter unfold.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I hope he runs with this, and I hope he gives it to Kirsch and they write articles. I mean, I want, so as Jordan Peterson said, this should be front page headline news around the globe. And if Malone can make that happen, God bless him.
You probably can.
I hope so.
Let's wrap this one up, Miss Karen Kingston. Let's not wait as long next time for our next episode, and let's definitely do another. We can get all jacked up and start screaming, which is my favorite thing to do. Thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for giving me time out of your day and listening to my incoherent ramblings.
No, they're not incoherent. They're not. You're filled with truth and some fire in there. I think you're awesome.
Thank you so
you're
much.
great. Yeah, keep
fighting.
You're taking territory. All right. God save America. Bye.
God bless. God bless everybody. God bless.